Welcome. It is so wonderful to see this room so filled with people, and for such a good man on the occasion of the celebration of the life of Jeb Burke. My name is Reverend Jeff Mansfield. Some people call me Pastor Jeff, and on behalf of the entire congregation of Glen Ridge Congregational Church, we are so deeply sorry. You have our condolences and our sympathies for the life of Jeb, for the loss in your life, for the sadness that you are feeling. We are feeling it too. Jeb was deeply beloved in this church, and we are proud to say that this church was and will always be one of Jeb's spiritual homes. Before we begin in proper with one another, I'd like to just do a little housekeeping with all of you. If you are looking for a restroom at any time during the service, you can find one directly through this door to your left. You can get there by going down this aisle here with the big column in the middle of it. Don't be afraid of the column. You can go right around it and go out. You should feel free to use that door at any time during the service. We want you to be comfortable. If you feel like you need anything, a drink of water or a tissue, you'll be able to find some of that in the back of the church, and there are tissues and things spread around. We want you to be comfortable. The very reason today, on this Wednesday, that we have lights and power and air conditioning and sound and all of the things we need is because Mike Sekeli, the beloved town administrator of Glen Ridge, burned his very last favor with PSE&G to move some scheduled service work from today to a day later in the fall. We would not have been able to do this today if he hadn't burned that last favor and got the power turned back on for us today. So we are so deeply grateful. Mike, good and faithful servant, thank you so much. We also want to say thank you to the Glen Ridge Police Department for coming out and helping people cross the street. We also want you to know, if you feel like you had to park in a space and you're not quite sure if you go back out if you're going to have a ticket or not, just let that go. Don't worry about it. The Glen Ridge Police Department has promised that in the blocks surrounding the church, they will not be enforcing any of the permit parking or anything like that. So you are safe, and you can be fully present to what we are doing here today. And speaking of letting things go and being fully present, now would be an excellent time to silence your cell phones and all other electronic devices that you might have. Try to remember if you have any alarms set on there. If you remember, sometimes you silence your phone, the alarm still goes off. So if you have a 3:30 pandemic happy hour that still rings on your phone every afternoon, you'll want to turn that off, whatever you've been doing to cope with this time. Speaking of which, we are so grateful to you for wearing masks and for helping to keep everyone safe. The church still has a policy of wearing masks in the sanctuary since we are so close together. People who are singing and using the microphones and leading the service will be able to take their masks off, but we thank you so much for leaving them on during this celebration of life. And a celebration of life it will be. I've had a few people ask me what we mean by that exactly. And in fact, we even had one person call the church this week and ask us if it would be okay to wear black to a celebration of life. So you too may be wondering, what's expected of me here today? What is my role in all of this? When Adriana, Lucas, Mateo, Beth, and Joel decided to call this event a celebration of Jeb's life, they didn't do so out of a desire to prohibit any of the feelings of shock and anger and deep mourning that they and that so many of you are feeling today. So please know that your grief and your sorrow and your tears are welcome and appropriate and honorable here at this celebration of life. At the same time, when a life is well lived, as we shall hear today that Jeb's life was well lived, we must also make a little room in the proceedings for gratitude, for joy, for laughter, and perhaps even for praise. And so this afternoon, we will be singing together. And we assure you that it has been deemed safe to sing as long as you are wearing a mask in a space like this. And we want to remind you that you have not been invited here today because you have a beautiful voice. No, you were invited here to add your voice to the chorus of celebration to honor Jeb's life. So when it is time to sing, sing. And when it is time to weep, weep. And if someone tells a joke, don't stifle the laughter. And if the reggae is just too good to sit still to, yes, there will be reggae, stand up and dance. This afternoon, we ask that your joy sit elbow to elbow with your sadness, and that your laughter look directly into the eyes of your tears. So, beloved, take a deep breath with me. Open your hearts, and let us pray. Holy One, we are crossing the threshold into a sacred time and space. We have prepared for this moment, and we know that you are here with us. We ask that you grant us strength this afternoon, not the strength to be strong. No, God, grant us the strength to be vulnerable. Grant us the strength to weep in the presence of our neighbors and to laugh in the presence of our pain. And when we are overwhelmed, grant that your Holy Spirit intercede with us with sighs too deep for human words. Remind us that we are here to honor Jeb's life, and to honor a whole good life requires the greatest part of our attention and our deepest hope. And when our days are ended, as Jeb's days in this world have ended, enable us to die as those who go forth to live, so that living or dying, our life may be in you. Amen. Please rise, and let's sing together Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
And while you're still standing, let us read responsively together the reading by David H. Eaton, A Common Destiny. I will read the pieces in regular type, and you will read with me the pieces in bold type. All living substance, all substance of energy, being, and purpose are united and share the same destiny. All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny. Birth to death, we share this unity with the sun, the earth, our brothers and sisters, strangers, flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams. Birth, life, death, unknown, known, unknown. Our destiny from unknown to unknown. May we have the faith to accept this mystery and build upon its everlasting truth.
Myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Let it be, let it be.
Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be. Speaking the words of wisdom, let it be.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, oh,
let it be. Speaking the words of wisdom, let it be.
Let it be.
Our first tribute this afternoon comes from Jay Phelps, Jeb's cousin. Jay, why don't you step right up to the lectern there on your right. Yes, you can take your mask off as you speak, please.
My name's Jay. I'm Jeb's first cousin. My mother, Patty, was devoted to her brother, Logan, as well as Mary, Ruth. And I can't help but think about time and where we've been as a family. And Jeb was born in 60. I was born in 66. And everybody, we are all in between. And I just remember, I remember watching Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. I remember when the Beatles broke up. I remember all these things, and I remember all my cousins and family members, especially Jeb, just being connected to the world as it turned. He was very happy when Joe Namath won the Super Bowl. I do remember that. And my earliest memory of Jeb is when we were little. We are in Kennebunkport, and Harold, myself, and George, there's a photograph of us all wearing life jackets. And we're all sort of sitting on the end of this boat. And I seem to remember Jeb pushed that boat out into the middle of the river and said, "Have a nice drive." And I seem to remember him wading out very quickly as Logan said, "You need to get those kids now," and fished us back in. And I knew Jeb in stages. I think about holidays. We spent a lot of holidays together, and we would all come together and go apart. And I really knew Jeb in some ways best when he was headed to Canada, and before he became a chef. And he was always coming home with adventure and stories. And Jeb lived life to its fullest. He was unapologetic, and he was able to be unapologetic because he was kind. And he was not ruthless. There was not a ruthless bone in his body. And yet he lived in a ruthless world. He grew up in New York, and he went places in New York, and he lived at the top of the food chain in some respects for many years, and he worked hard, and he devoted himself to all of his craft. And he lived many lifetimes, many. The lifetime I'm going to focus on is when he met Audrey, and how he, would travel with her, and the boys came into being. And, they lived in the city for quite a while, and then eventually they came here to this beautiful town. And it is a beautiful town. I didn't prepare remarks today because I had no idea what I would say. Because while I knew Jeb's health was at times very frail, honestly, I just expected him to be here for a whole lot longer. And here we are. And I think I think that's the lesson. I think Jeb was really clear about how important it was to get up every day and walk out the door and look at everything around you and not take one moment of it for granted. And he didn't. He didn't. Everybody in this room knew him. And everybody in this room who's sitting here loved him with all their heart. And we were lucky to have him as a family member. So, my journey moving forward with Jeb's memory is to remember how well he lived, and that when I go out in the world today and for the rest of my days, that's a high standard, and not to get caught up in pettiness and trite meanness. You know, Jeb understood what real suffering was. He cared for families that are in Syria right now, and he cared for families everywhere. He was committed to making the world a better place. And I can think of no better person to have led that. So, Jeb, your presence is here now with us all. You're loved beyond words. I'm going to do everything I can to take care of my family and be here for Audrey and the boys and Annie, Meredith, all of our family. I want you to know we're here for each other. And I know you all are here for us. And believe me, we need you. We need you. So it's with great love in my heart and great respect for everybody in this room that I say goodbye to Jebby for now. And this is an amazing gift. Being alive is an amazing gift. And Jeb understood that better than anybody I know. And with that, I step down. Thank you.
Lucas Burke, Jeb's oldest son, is now going to remember his father. Lucas, will you join me here at the pulpit, please? And Mateo Burke is coming too. Join me at the pulpit, Lucas and Mateo.
It's a lot of people. Hello, everyone. I'd like to first thank Jay for those beautiful words and Reverend Jeff for leading today's ceremony. I'd also like to thank everyone, friends and family, for joining us today in celebration of my dad's life. With us in the front today, we have my lovely mother, Adriana. With me up here, my brother, Mateo. My father's two sisters, Annie and Meredith, and along with the rest of our family. I knew the hardest part about this day would be coming up here and seeing all these faces. All the people that my dad loved with all his heart. In these times of pain and grief, I think it's important we find something to be happy for. I'm grateful for the lessons my dad taught me, the people he introduced me to, and the time we had together. Despite his laundry list of health conditions and surgeries, he was the last person to complain about anything. His positivity was unmatched, and what was, I think, kept him going for so long. 90% of his time was spent either cooking for us and 5 other families, walking with Grizz, or driving to and from Maine, all while on the phone texting and calling the people he loved. If you saw him in the kitchen, you would understand why he was always on the move. He would always be talking. What's going on here? What's going on there? Hurry up. Clean as you go. Or you want a break? What are you, union? But as crazy as things seemed in the kitchen, there was always a method to his madness, as he would say. He always had a plan, and he was almost OCD organized. When prepping to cook a meal, he would always have his mise en place, his onions, his garlic, his vegetables, whatever he was cooking, all diced up and laid out neatly on the counter, ready to go. So when it was time to cook, he could create. Similar to his life, he would create structure in order to have freedom. He mapped his direction so he could swerve in the lane and have fun, all while accomplishing everything he needed to do. The greatest lesson I'll take from my dad is, whatever you do, don't half-ass it. Do it like you care. He would say, it doesn't matter if you're washing toilets, you'll be the best toilet washer. And I saw that in him. Whatever he did it right, and he did it thoroughly. Most of the food my dad cooked was given away. And after making a tray of lasagna and cutting up into 5 to 6 pieces, already knowing where each had its destination, my mom would walk in the kitchen and ask, so which one's ours? And he'd point to the smallest chunk and say, we can always make more. Making food and giving it away was his way of saying, I love you. Whenever an opportunity presented itself to give something away or just come around to say hi, it seemed as though he couldn't resist. That's why when we went on a quick run to CVS and came home hours later after making 10 different pit stops. As a kid, these things got me angry. I didn't understand it. He'd say, okay, just one more stop. And I'd ask why. And his response would always be, because it'll make their day. It wouldn't feel right to come up here and just speak about my stories with my father. So over the past weeks, I've read and heard countless beautiful stories and memories, some of which I'd like to share with you. Nelson Rangel writes, it was a beautiful sunny day. Lots of kids were running around in the backyard. Parents were standing around chatting and having a beer. I saw Regina, our old babysitter. We greeted each other, and after a short talk, she brought me up to Jeb to introduce me to him. Hey, Jeb, this is Nelson, the Venezuelan guy I've told you about. Jeb, with a big smile on his face, greeted me and said, hello, nice to meet you. I heard you would like to become the president of Venezuela. I felt a bit embarrassed, and in the spotlight, I responded, yes, that's true. I have many flashback memories I could share with you, but here's a significant one. On November 1st of 2016, I found myself about to start living in my car. I was always broke, and nothing seemed to go my way. However, I was convinced that graduating was my best bet, so if I had to live in my car and figure things out from there, I was going to do it. Jeb, being my friend, was aware of the situation. One morning, while we shared breakfast, I told him what was going on with me. He just listened to me carefully. A few days went by, and I saw him again. He told me that he had talked to Adriana and that there was no need to live in my car. He said, you can stay in the room in the basement until you get back on your feet. All I ask of you is to help around the house a little. I couldn't be more thankful. I accepted his conditions and moved in. During my stay, not only did I learn more about Jeb as a friend, but also as a father and a husband. He also got to know me better, and our friendship became stronger than ever. My perspective of life had gotten so much brighter living with Jeb. He would bring me around and introduce me to his best buds. He always showed pride to have me around, always so serving and caring. I never understood why he was so proud of me. Nick Calise and Shannon McCarthy write, "It's hard to put into words what you mean to me. Your light and positivity radiated from your presence alone, and I always looked forward to adventures with you. There was no doubt when we got that random call to meet you at dinner in half an hour that we would find a way to make it there. You drove 3 hours to see us for 10 minutes after we got engaged and had just become a minister to officiate our wedding. A true testament to the wonderful human that you were. Between boat rides, fire pit nights, four-wheeler excursions, it was just an honor to be hanging out with you. One thing I'll truly miss is your never-ending voicemails that always ended with, 'Who loves you, baby?' To my father, also known as Jeb, Jebba, Jebster, Jebby, or legally as John, you made the world a happier, healthier, and more loving place. You'll forever be in my heart and in my mind. I love you large."
And now Jeb's cousin Harold Angstrom will share reflections with us. Harold, you can step right over to the lectern on your right.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks, Mateo. It was great. Sorry, I'm getting old. I wrote down what I wanted to say. I didn't think I could be as extemporaneous as Jay and as effective, and of course Lucas has all his dad's charm, which is terrific. So I just wanted to say that it's a privilege, one of the privileges of my life, to stand here before you to say a few words celebrating Jebby. We all feel that Jeb's life is special, and it's really hard to find words that do him justice. But I'm going to try. Some of us seem to live at the fringes of our lives. We're swept along by the daily current, and we ride it. We have coffee, chores, parenting, school, work, checking in with our spouse or partner, chores, maybe a workout, supper, chores, a few minutes to chill, and then bed. Some of us let ourselves become like the character actors in our own story, and we barely notice that. But Jebby was different. Jebby was the main character in his life and in many of our lives. Jebby didn't ride, he didn't ride the current, he plowed through it or planed over it. And when he was in our lives, we all felt more alive. He was restless and full of energy and always in the moment, all the time. He would make you feel like you mattered because you did matter to him. And he could draw you into the moment with him, and the whole world would be left behind. The physicist Richard Feynman once postulated that there is only a single photon in the whole universe that is somehow everywhere at once. One photon that by some quantum miracle embodies limitless possibilities. He was wrong. But if he had been right, then the human form of that photon would have been Jebby. He was everywhere at once, spreading light and energy. I think that Jeb was like his dad, Uncle Logan, both of them moving full ahead all the time. Maybe because the perspective on life at that speed was better and more bearable than that afforded by a slower pace. A lot of people have great stories about Jebby showing his commitment to them and their relationship. Jebby knew life is all about relationships. It isn't about anything else, not really. And Jebby was all in for his relationships. And there was no alternative to his relationships. It wasn't optional. Jebby was in, and so you were in too. Now, think about Jebby. Think about his bright light and his warm energy, the way he made you feel when he was with you. The cadence of his voice, his laugh, his eyes. Think about how no matter how he was feeling or how you were feeling, you were always right there with Jebby. And you know you can always call that moment back. It's almost impossible to think about Jeb without a smile and some warmth welling up. Jeb's name is now written in the stars, and we can celebrate this man who left us with such wonderful memories. And those memories remind us of what it is to be a good person and a good friend.
And our final eulogy this afternoon comes from good friend Joel Naftalberg. Joel, join me right up here at the pulpit.
Lucas, you were right. There's a lot of people here. Thank you, Jeff, Reverend Jeff. Thank you, Jay, Lucas, Harold, for speaking. Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. God does his work in mysterious ways. Late in the afternoon, on the day before he died, Jeb and I were sitting in my backyard. The subject of death came up. Jeb and I together evaluated, analyzed, and worked to accept the conditions of our own mortality. As Jeb often did, he dismissed any fear or concern that he had about his physical conditions, about his own mortality. His conditions, his health situations, would render any mere mortal anxious, emotionally unstable, and perhaps, to a large degree, really frightened. He said something that will stay in my mind for the rest of my life. He said, "You know, Joel, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon." We both smiled and chuckled a little bit, not really believing what he said. We knew that his time was limited and that each day, each experience might be the last. The next morning, to shock and dismay, Jeb died. 3 weeks later, here we are, -1. Jeb gone from our lives. Coming to terms, or beginning to come to terms with Jeb being gone from this space and time, just like each of you, has been really painful to my head and to my heart. There are only a handful of people who come into our world and touch our lives in such a dramatic fashion. Some of the people are just flickers of light during a long life, while others are bright, consistent glows for years. Jeb was a consistent glow, perhaps better described as the burn of a jet engine. He was text messaging mayhem. He was the host with the most. His love for cooking and service took him to places that were hot spots on the globe. But more than that, his love for service to others took him to the heights of personal contentment, reasonable happiness, and the freedom that he derived from that unconditional love that he poured out. Our bodies require connective tissue, bones, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, supporting and binding all the other tissues in our bodies. Jeb was our connective tissue. Jeb was granted with a gift for connecting people from many places around the world, numerous positions in life. He supported each of us and bound us with his love. Jeb had a huge heart. His capacity for love was as big as any I have seen in my life. He was genuinely happy for the good fortune of others. If there were struggles or illness in our lives, he was compassionate and empathetic. I've wondered why someone who had so much love in him and had so much love to give to others lived with such a fragile heart. So many friends and dear ones from near and far have reached out to Anne, Meredith, to Adriana, Lucas, Mateo, and to me, and to each other. What we've tried to do, both Lucas and I, is to try to mix in some of those shares into our eulogies today, so that you can hear the pouring of affection that came, the things you've read in social media, the phone calls to each other. Kayleen shared, Poppy was what Jeb called me, a term of endearment. We met 30 years ago at Lincoln Center. He was chef, I the line cook. The moment we met, it was love at first sight. We worked together for over 25 years and spent quality time with families and friends. Jeb would say we're brothers from another mother. He was my mentor and best friend. He was there to guide and help me during difficult times. Jeb contributed to me being the person I am today. There was never a dull moment around him. Jeb seemed to be forever happy, smiling, cheering, and having fun with life and others. He had come over to watch a boxing match. Right before the main event, he would stand up and say, "I gotta go. But call me tomorrow and tell me who won." He was always on the move. Robert Viola shared, Jeb did so much for so many. He tirelessly donated. He looked after each person who crossed his path with delicacy and loving generosity. Our hearts are overflowing with sadness and bittersweet, deep gratitude to the powers of the universe for sending this man to us. We feel privileged to have had him in our lives. Joe C. and I have spoken a lot. He shared with me this week, Jeb often talked with strangers. Really? Through various health and recovery communities, calls would come in from across the country, to ask Jeb what his thoughts were on some new treatment related to the gastrointestinal therapy that they were going through. Often at that time, he was in discomfort from the very treatments the callers were asking for his help about. As you've heard, he didn't complain. He channeled what he was going through into what? Positive energy. Jeb defined positive energy. In his way, Jeb was able to make each person he contacted feel special. And in his way, each person who he's contacted was special to him. Samantha Singh shared this. What a wonderful man. What a wonderful man Jeb was, always sunny and bright. The last time I saw him, he cooked lunch for me at News Corps, so we could catch up on all the events and updates on everyone. I'll never forget the wonderful dinner he cooked me for my 30th birthday. Jonathan Frith shared, Jeb gave me motorcycle rides from Brooklyn to Manhattan when I was a little kid in the 70s. Certain experiences like that inform one's soul. Anne wrote, I'm gonna miss your messaging mayhem, your unending short phone calls, your butt dials, and your everything. Oh, my bionic brother, I never thought in a million years I'd be writing this. Missing you like mad. Andy T., Jeb was one of my oldest, closest, and most loved friends. One of the best, most loyal, giving, caring people I have ever known. My heart goes out to the boys and to Audrey. Rock on, Jeb. Gonna play some metal for you all day today. Leslie Carmago wrote, never, ever I had met someone so full of energy, love, and joy in my life. He would come home and the house would light up. I will miss your random messages. I will miss you. And you will always be in my heart. Jimmy gave me a bunch of quotes from Jeb. Very simply stated, Jeb's best quotes were, what do you need? What can I do for you? I'm here for you. My brother. And then he would often ask, how's your mother? He always asked about moms. Stories abound about how Jeb would call our mothers if we told them that our mothers were ill or suffering in some way. He was always checking in with everybody, and he touched us all in a way that very few could. Rochelle Hansen wrote, an amazing person, not a bad bone in his body. From day one, such a giving person. I'm glad that we have had the opportunity to cross paths. Jeb was and will always be a huge ray of sunshine that was gifted to us. We were blessed to be in his sunshine, in his sunlight. And I couldn't do a complete tribute to Jeb without mentioning the Clinton Road block parties. Sean and I were talking yesterday, Sean Rank, and she recalled that Jeb would turn a block party into a festival. Delicacies from around the world, and the hot dog machine that came down from the stairs up on the hill. He would get so excited to watch those dogs rolling. She remembered how he would live life with an enthusiastic glow of a child. Jeb was the kindest, most loving man I have ever had the good fortune to know. Personally, I have a very strong bond with my biological family, as well as a magical love for my own wife and children. Through Jeb, it was proved over the past 20 years that there could be more room for more loving family. In addition to our health journeys, Jeb and I both lost our biological brothers at relatively young ages. George, Jeb's younger brother, and Stephen, my older brother. In many ways, we adopted each other as brothers, meeting a deeper need for love and care that we both shared. The relationship with Jeb was special. Two men who were fortunate to meet in this life. Who cared for each other, who cared for each other's well-being. There existed a sharing, a caring, a generosity, and an abundance of unconditional love that had no limits. It was getting better each day. It was getting better each day. I was comfortable with Jeb. I could tell him anything. And in the time we spent together, there were so many feelings and circumstances that we did put into each other's trust. Jeb was also a source of incredible inquiry. He had questions about everything. He had so many questions. He would ask about recovery groups that I attended. He was so grateful for the powers in the universe that supported me and all the people that had been saved through the grace that had entered our lives. He would often ask about my cars. He derived great pleasure from the pleasure I found in my hobbies. And I know that was true for so many other people. We found together that unconditional love combined with consistent loving kindness would be the remedy to the demons we were both living with and often challenged by. There are only a few people who have come into my life and changed it forever. Jeb's passing reminds me that life is short, and the most important part of it is the people in it. I'm grateful for his presence in mine. To Adriana, to Lucas, to Mateo, I love you. You know you're as my own family. And to Jeb, I love you. I miss you. Your family is in good hands. You've graced my life and the lives of so many others. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Jay and Harold. Please rise and let's sing Lean on Me together.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll have you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have the things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show.
Everybody.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend.
Please be seated. We have a reading next, and as I understand it, some of you may be familiar with this quote because it was one of Joel's favorites, and he shared it widely. So you may have heard it before or got it in an email or on social media or in a text message. But there is something here that Jeb wants us to hear, so let's listen carefully. Write It on Your Heart by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "Write it on your heart that every day is the best day in the year. He is rich who owns the day, and no one owns the day who allows it to be invaded with fret and anxiety. Finish every day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. The new day is too dear with its hopes and invitations to waste a moment on the yesterdays." What was it that Jeb loved so much about this quote? It summed up, I guess, for him what has been described to us all here this afternoon as his indefatigable, positive attitude, his desire not to get bogged down in the past or in the anxieties that we all know can creep in and ruin an hour or a day or a week or a whole year. Essentially, Jeb is telling us all, relax, take it easy. Don't be so hard on yourself. What do you need? What can I do for you? There is too much opportunity to do good today, to waste it all on worry. And Jeb, I think, understood that living a life free from worry is not about being naive, right? It's not a belief that nothing bad will ever happen. After all, didn't Jeb live with uncertainty and suffering and hardship in his life? Instead, I think that not worrying is about realizing that bad things always eventually happen to the worriers and the non-worriers alike. So why should we be distracted by the things that ought to be peripheral in our lives, by our anxieties, our fears, our selfishness, our worries? Instead, and all of you are here to celebrate Jeb, so you already know this, not worrying is about putting that which is most important at the center of life and, as much as possible, surrendering yourself to acting out of that most important center. For Jeb, that most important center of his life was all of you, right? He was there for you, for his family, his friends, his co-workers, his community, not because you were in a ring surrounding the center of Jeb's anxieties, regrets, ambition, and pride. No, he was there for all of you because he put you at the center and did the work to push the rest of it to the periphery. He put you at the center of his life. He put hope, kindness, and love at the center of his life. Did he not? Did he not? We have come here today to celebrate that which was at the very center of Jeb Burke. We have experienced that center in our relationships with him, and we have heard it retold this afternoon so well in these beautiful tributes. And all of us, each and every one of us, should leave here this evening asking ourselves, what is at the center of me? What is at the center of my life? And when I leave this life, and that which was at the very center of me is given back to the world, will the world be able to receive it back as a well-cared-for gift? What is it? that is at the very center of me. Beloved, the love that was at the center of Jeb's life, his love for you and yours for him, not one bit of it can ever be cut off or taken away from any of you. It has been etched permanently into your lives and into your futures. It is more real than the pews that you are all sitting on right now. It can never be erased. It is true, and it can never be falsified. And I have no doubt that Jeb, wherever he may be, who wrote it on his heart that every new day was the best day, still believes that today, this very day, is a good day to love with everything that you have been given. Beloved, let's remember to love one another at the very center of our lives. Amen. And now I would ask you to join me in the responsive reading printed in your bulletin. We remember them. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the birth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys and when we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as they live, we too shall live, for they are now a part of us, as we remember them. And now, beloved, I would ask you please to raise your hands up in blessing towards this altar and towards the picture of Jeb that you see on the altar. And I would ask you to hold in your heart an image or a vision of Jeb as you knew and as you loved him best. Into your hands, O God, we commend your servant Jeb. Acknowledge, we humbly pray, a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, a child of your own redeeming. Receive him into the arms of your love. Holy One, now let your servant go in peace. Your word has been fulfilled. Amen. And please rise for our closing song.
where the clouds are far. Where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you find. That's where you find me. Oh.
Beloved, receive this final blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may you go forth from this place carrying the good news that you heard here, with a heart more open to love the world. Amen.
Said there was something here that looked like this. Good to see you. You should too. Let's try to get together. I know you're working crazy hours, but it's yours. This was one of those hours you got. I finally had something to wear.
Great job.
Oh, thank you.
Seriously, man.
Really?
Great.
Thank you.
Put a tear in my eye. I love you. Great to see you, bro.
It's been too long, Jamie.
I know.
Let's make sure we do it.
That's right, man.
tell you something. We got home last night. Had a little bag. 2 potatoes. Caroline opens it up. 2 meatballs. What? I wanted to tell you that Caroline had your balls and she was eating them.
What's your mother talking right now?
It was disgusting. Good battle. Okay. We're gonna scoot to the
Knock the hell out of you, man.
I was a really good friend of George. That's how I met Jay. I worked with George in New York.
Where did you guys work together?
For Base Rain in New York. With George.
Okay, so you know George.
Oh, yeah, I know George very well. That's how I met Jay. Yeah, I'm so sorry for that.
Did you see Marissa?
I did. Called this morning. One's enough, right? Surreal, you know.
Oh my God, I love this
I see Annie right down there.
I know. Did you see my shoulders? Just,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So this is Meredith over here.